And welcome to this week's edition of Current Nerd News. I'm your host, Morgan Cobbs. I know we're starting, gosh, it is 7:08. I know we are a few minutes late today. I know I didn't post last week. That is because, as of the recording of this episode, I am currently wrapping up my last week of university, my last week of college here at UB, University of Bridgeport, UB, Shout out to all my Purple Knights listening. Salute. All my UB alumni listening. Salute. So yeah, actually, literally right before I started recording, I was finishing up a final report and then also final exam for one of my classes, aerodynamics class. Um, this is actually one of the textbooks. If you're watching this live, or if you're watching this on YouTube, then you can see it's one of my textbooks, Race Car Aerodynamics. So yeah, your boy's an engineering student. I'm about to be an engineer officially an engineer. In a few weeks, I graduate May 6th. The day before that, May 5th, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 comes out. I may or may not be seeing it opening night. None of that has anything to do with the current nerd news, but that's just kind of like a life update and how I didn't post last week, and it's really just been an experience, running this podcast. The first year, I've had this podcast almost a year at this point. It'll be officially 1 year, May 6th. I think May 6th of last year was the day that I decided to start this podcast. It's not when I made my first upload, but it's when I officially said, all right, I'm going to go forward with this podcast idea. And yeah, over the first year, I'm just finishing up my last year of college. So, here we are. Okay, yeah, well, without any further ado, let's just jump right into it. A lot has happened in the last 2 weeks since we last spoke. We've gotten first thing I'd like to mention, and I want to spend the majority of this episode. The main event for tonight is Star Wars Celebration and all the updates we got from that. But first, I would like to just talk about the Marvels. And the Marvels, we got the first trailer, and I'm actually pretty excited. I'm glad it was kind of pushed back to November. Granted, yep, it comes out November 10th. I don't know how I'm seeing this movie in theaters because I'll be on the other side of the planet then. But I will let you guys know what I think about this movie when it comes out. The first trailer was phenomenal. Okay, check it out. It's on YouTube right now. I think I made a post about it on Instagram. But rolling over to IMDb. This is how I run my podcast from now on, guys. IMDb. So the one sentence, plot on IMDb. Carol Danvers gets her powers entangled with those of Kamala Khan and Monica Rambeau, forcing them to work together to save the universe. Now, this will explain the post-credit scene of season 1 of Miss Marvel. If you guys remember the post-credit scene when Kamala Khan, who's played by Iman Vellani, Canadian legend, and how she's just in a room, and then she ends up swapping places with Carol Danvers. Basically, this movie it's a sequel to the first Captain Marvel, but it's also a sequel to WandaVision, as well as to Miss Marvel. And I noticed that in the trailer we see Nick Fury and Saber, which I think is an acronym for something. Like in the trailer it said S.A.B.E.R. I'm not exactly sure what that acronym is, but my guess is that Saber, this space station, is connected to SWORD, which we know for a fact exists in the MCU. SWORD was created by Maria Rambeau, Captain Maria Rambeau, who we saw in the first Captain Marvel, played by Lashana Lynch. And it was pretty much the space version of S.H.I.E.L.D. S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of protected the Earth from terrestrial threats and terrorists and stuff like that. And then SWORD was the space version of that, protecting the world from any extraterrestrial threats, any aliens like the Kree, the Skrull that we saw in the first Captain Marvel, and it stands for like sentient world. I should know this, but yeah, we're probably going to see more of Sword. I could just get this acronym. Yeah, the Sentient Weapon Observation and Response Division, like how SHIELD was the strategic. Let me just get my mouth together. The Strategic Homeland Interventions Enforcement and Logistics Division, SHIELD. So now we've got SWORD, the Sentient Weapon Observation and Response Division. And this organization exists, and because we now know that the real Nick Fury has been in space, and this is really going to add, and this is why I'm also really looking forward to Secret Invasion, because I'm wondering if in Secret Invasion, is Secret Invasion going to play into the Marvels, given that we know that that Nick Fury has been being impersonated by Talos. He's been being impersonated by Talos, and Talos's wife has been impersonating Maria Hill all throughout Spider-Man: Far From Home. Like that post-credit scene really just like opened Pandora's box. I mean, the possibilities and the ambiguity of this character of Nick Fury. I mean, it's like how long has he been up in space? Like how long has he been up in space? Like how many of these Marvel characters are Skrulls? So I think that the Marvels is probably the first Marvel movie that's going to be directly impacted by like the shows. Like I've always had it in my mind that the real world building and expansion and continuation of the story of the Marvel Cinematic Universe will always be on the big screen and not on Disney Plus, because not everybody has Disney Plus. So there's only so much that they can do with the streaming service. Like you can only have so many like spin-offs and sequels and whatnot. Shout out to whoever just joined the live stream. I'm currently live streaming on Twitch. I completely forgot to mention that, guys. All of these live streams are live on Twitch. We are live on Twitch right now. Eventually, I will be able to stream on multiple streaming platforms, but we are live Thursday night, 7 o'clock on Twitch. Everywhere else, Fridays, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So shout out to whoever just joined. Feel free to put all your questions, comments, concerns in the chat. We are, currently we're talking about. Currently, we are talking about the Marvels, and later on in the episode, I'm going to get into Star Wars Celebration and Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. But back to the Marvels. This is the first movie where we're seeing them take events from the shows. Really, I guess the post-credit scene of WandaVision, where we saw Monica Rambeau as an adult, played by Tiana Paris, and she is found by the Skrull, and like the Skrull tells her how Nick Fury's been waiting for you. He's in space. And they even mentioned in Spider-Man: No Way Home, when Peter was being interrogated, they're like, Nick Fury's been on the moon or Nick Fury's been in space. So I like how everything's being tied in together. I'm actually really looking forward to this movie. I think that, what's crazy is that Avengers Endgame came out 4 years ago. Okay, like Avengers, gosh, I mean, Infinity War, I want to say Infinity War came out Friday, April 27th, 2018. I was in the end of my senior year of high school. I saw it the 29th. I saw it that Sunday. That was almost 5 years ago. I mean, wow. And then Endgame, I saw opening night, saw it Friday, April 26th, 2019. That was my freshman year of college. And I mean, it's been a mixed bag. I mean, Phase 4 was a mixed bag. Phase 5, so far, we've got Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. which was okay. Still to come this year, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which I feel like might be the best Marvel movie of the year. And I kind of regret not picking it as one of my picks during the Fantasy Movie League back in like January. And so yeah, that's on May 5th. Really looking forward to that one. I think I saw another trailer for it yesterday. So yeah, that and the Marvels, but the Marvels is like now we're starting to see the merger of the Disney Plus streaming service with the big screen. The Disney Plus original series with the big screen. We're starting to see that crossover. We kind of saw it with the post credit scene of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Like apparently, Kang the Conqueror is going to show up in season two of Loki. I'm really looking forward to that, and I'm also really hoping and praying that we can get our man Jonathan Majors safely acquitted. He is due in court, I think, May 8th, so his court date is coming up soon. I hope and pray for an innocent verdict for this man. We're starting to see sort of that crossover. My only question going into Secret Invasion, because Secret Invasion is coming out this June, is Secret Invasion going to set up the events of the Marvels? That's the only real question. But check out the trailer; it looks amazing, guys. Not just from an aesthetic point of view, but it sounds like it's got a pretty concrete story. It's got a solid cast. Brie Larson coming back as Carol Danvers, of course. Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury. Tiana Paris as Monica Rambeau, making her big screen debut as Monica Rambeau. Monica Rambeau, who was in the first Captain Marvel, but as a child, so she's all grown up now. We got Iman Vellani making her big screen debut as Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, who we saw in the Miss Marvel series last summer. Zawe Ashton, probably mispronouncing that. Park Seo Joon. I forgive me if I mispronounce any of these names. Caroline Simonet as a Kree soldier. Mohan Kapoor as Yusuf, reprising his role as Yusuf Khan, Kamala Khan's father. Zenobia Shroff as Manuba Khan, and Sagar Sheikh as Amir Khan. So the Khan family will be making their big screen debut. Kamara Benjamin Barnett as an uncredited Kree soldier. This is the cast from. This is the cast reported from IMDb. So it's got a pretty solid cast. Pretty solid group of characters. We're going to see more Kree soldiers, probably another group of accusers, probably a group of accusers following Ronan the Accuser's death in Guardians of the Galaxy. So looks like they've got some sort of new leadership. So lots to look forward to with Guardians 3 and the Marvels still to come later this year. All right, and to shift gears to Star Wars. Now, recently there was a Star Wars celebration in London on April 10th. Star Wars celebration, hang on. And, one of these days I would love to actually go to, one of these days I would actually love to go to Star Wars Celebration. I know here in Connecticut we have Kineticon, which is like a smaller comic book convention. I think at Kineticon we had, 2018 was Austin St. John, who the 90s kids watching will remember him as the very first Red Power Ranger on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. He was the guest of honor at the Kineticon in 2017, 2018. There's WonderCon. There was DiasporaCon at Quinnipiac University, I think just last weekend. I did not go. unfortunately, because finals week. And we have WonderCon, but I'd like to go to New York Comic Con at least once in my life. But I feel like I probably have to work my way up to San Diego Comic Con and Hall H, because that's like the big one. So maybe like New York Comic Con in like October. That's kind of the smaller one. And before that, Kineticon. After New York Comic Con, there's like a comic book convention in Atlanta, I hear. So you guys will definitely see me at comic book conventions in the coming years. Maybe not this year or next year, but maybe after my 2 years in Micronesia, comic book conventions is definitely something I want to do in life. And I want you guys to, actually like maybe spot me at these comic book conventions and like cosplay. I'd love to cosplay with a bunch of you guys. Let's go to Star Wars Celebration. Let's go to San Diego Comic Con 2027. I don't know. Okay, tickets aren't on sale for that yet. But every new movie and TV show announced at Star Wars Celebration 2023. So a lot of announcements were made at Star Wars Celebration this year. I want to say the last time they had a Star Wars Celebration was like 2019, and I think it was in Chicago. COVID really just messed things up. Bad Batch Season 3 teaser trailer. First off, guys, if you have not yet subscribed to Star Wars, for all the Star Wars fans who listen to Cobbs Corner, go listen to Star Wars podcast, listen to Michael and all them over at Star Wars. They talk about primarily Star Wars. I'm just kind of starting to get back into Star Wars. Bad Batch Season 3, I haven't watched any of the Bad Batch. I'm currently trying to binge through Star Wars Rebels in preparation for Ahsoka, which I think takes place right after Rebels. So Ahsoka, which I'll get to later on. But yeah, Bad Batch Season 3 will be the final season. Third and final season of Bad Batch was teased as one of the upcoming projects at Star Wars Celebration. Special preview trailer was shown to guests in attendance, included Omega, Crosshair, and Emperor Palpatine, in addition to an abundance of action. Again, I myself don't want to get into spoilers, so Bad Batch Season 3, Tales of the Jedi Season 2. I've heard of Tales of the Jedi. It's kind of like an anthology series about like the different tales of the Jedi. Okay, Dave Filoni announced continuation of Tales of the Jedi during a panel discussion marking the 15th anniversary of the Clone Wars. Guys, whew, man, let that sink in. 15 years, and I still have not watched every single episode. I have this on again, off again relationship with Star Wars: The Clone Wars, and it's like every time I start watching the show, I always stop and go watch something else, and then I'll go back to it like 2 months later, and then like, okay, like I have a tendency to like to show hop. Let me know that like in the comments down below, like, do any of you guys have this tendency to just hop from show to show, and you don't actually like follow through and finish watching all the episodes, all the seasons of the show? Yeah, but yeah, Star Wars Tales of the Jedi Season 2. So 15th anniversary of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. There's an entire generation of us Star Wars fans. I want to say for like those of us nerds who are like in my age bracket, like young adults between 18 and 25, we have grown up on the era of Clone Wars, the sequel trilogy, for better or for worse, Star Wars Rebels, and now Disney Plus. I'm old enough to remember seeing Revenge of the Sith in theaters when I was 4. That's probably my earliest Star Wars memory. Was seeing Episode 3 back in 2005. But for really, my generation, we've got Clone Wars, we've got Rebels, millennials, early 2000s kids, 90s kids, you guys got the prequel trilogy. Gen Xers, those of you like over 40, we'll say, yeah, Star Wars fans over 40, you guys have the original trilogy. Nothing will ever compare to the original trilogy, in my opinion. Visions Volume 2, No shortage of epic lightsaber fights, force action, and hilarious gags in the first trailer for Visions Volume 2, which also highlights the wide range of animation companies collaborating on the upcoming season. The cast for the second season was also revealed for our enjoyment. Legendary Star Wars actor Dennis Lawson will provide the voice for Wedge Antilles in the Aardman animation short, along with roles for Maxine Peake, Cynthia Erivo. Oh, Daveed Diggs from Hamilton. Okay, yeah. So, so yeah, Star Wars Visions. This all looks pretty exciting. Of course, another Indiana Jones 5 trailer. I still have yet to watch Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I'm probably not going to do like audio commentary or anything because those like actually take time to to record and like produce and everything. But at some point, I'm going to actually like sit and watch all 4 Indiana Jones movies. I've seen 1, 2, and 3. I've seen Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, which is kind of historically. I get that it's historical fiction, but it's really just kind of inaccurate in its depiction of Indian people. You know, it's a depiction of like people from India. I think that movie would. Not saying it wouldn't happen today, but I think it would it would play out a lot differently today. Yeah, Temple of Doom, semi-problematic film. And then Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. I've seen those 3. I have not seen Kingdom of the Crystal Skull from 2008. It's the only one that I was alive for. I've heard nothing but bad things about it, though. Harrison Ford has said in an interview a few years back how he does not want anyone to play Indiana Jones after him, that he wants this role to just die with him. And I say honor his wishes. I think that is how you properly memorialize such an iconic role like Indiana Jones. Let him have that role. You already kind of took Han Solo from him with having a young Han Solo, which I don't really have a problem with. I mean, I liked the movie Solo. I think it was good for what it was. But Indiana Jones 5, I'm wondering, is this just kind of the last hurrah, or are they going to do more like spin-offs and stuff? Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny hits theaters this June, I think. We got the first Ahsoka trailer, which includes live-action Sabine Wren, played by Natasha Liu Bordizzo, and Hera Syndulla, played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead, was released during Star Wars Celebration. Additionally, we discovered that the show would debut on Disney Plus at some point this August. Okay, so August. Guys, to all the Star Wars fans listening, Michael from Star Wars, if you're listening, I promise I will have binge watched all 4 seasons of Rebels by August of this year. Okay, we don't have an exact date. Once we have the exact date, then I know what my deadline is. I'm probably gonna go and like watch Star Wars Rebels soon as I log off of here. Okay, I'm gonna log off. I'm gonna go watch me some Star Wars Rebels, and being that it's on Disney Plus, where I'm going, where I'm going to Micronesia for 2 years, they've got internet, so I will be able to keep up with the Ahsoka series and let you guys know what my thoughts are. Additionally, we discovered that the show would debut. Okay, in addition, Grand Admiral Thrawn is coming in. Okay, so just like how with Marvel, we're starting to see a crossover between the Disney Plus series and the live action movies. With Star Wars, we're starting to see a crossover between the animated shows, between Clone Wars and Rebels and Bad Batch and all that. Crossover between that and now the live action series like Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, Andor. We're starting to see that crossover, that merger, with all really, really exciting stuff. Visitors at Celebration got to see actors in person for the first time. Got to see the actor in person for the first time as the villain. All right. More teasers for future content. Difficult to keep up with all the exclusive teases that were released at Star Wars Celebration. Our first look at television series Andor Season 2 reveal deceit, blasters, and explosives in the first trailer for Skeleton Crew, which marks Jude Law's franchise debut. We also got a glimpse of what could be the galactic equivalent of a team adventure narrative. In addition, there was a trailer for the upcoming television show The Acolyte that showed actress Carrie Ann Moss from The Matrix using the Force. All right. So, Andor Season 2, my guess is we're probably going to get Andor Season 2 maybe next August. Maybe, looking forward to looking ahead past 2023, into 2024, probably August 2024. I mean, the ending of Season 1 of Andor was just phenomenal. They've never, okay, well, I guess technically Star Wars, they have done shows based on one character. Like, I mean, we got the Book of Boba Fett, we got the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Book of Boba Fett, I'm not even sure if season 2 is like confirmed or not. Maybe later on as I'm scrolling through this document. But Andor is like the first show. It's like a multi-season show about a single character who we already saw him die. I like kind of like they did with Andor, kind of like what George Lucas did with Obi-Wan Kenobi way back in 1977. We're introduced to Obi-Wan Kenobi, played by the late Alec Guinness, God rest his soul, in 1977 in A New Hope. We're introduced to Obi-Wan Kenobi. He dies, but then he shows up in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi as a Force ghost. He also, then 1999, we got the live action. We got Ewan McGregor made his big screen debut as the young Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi from pre A New Hope, when he was a Jedi Knight, him and Qui-Gon Jinn, and then we got the prequel trilogy, and then he shows up again in Clone Wars, and then with the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, and so like what they're doing with Andor, giving him his own separate show, because really that whole in between period of between Return of the Jedi and between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, like that in between period hasn't really been explored. I think that in between period, and also I like with The Mandalorian, they're exploring the in between period between Return of the Jedi, between the Battle of and Endor, between like the Battle of Endor and like the start of Episode 7, Fall of the Empire, Rise of the First Order. What was that transition like? What was the in between government like? What was like we saw in the first season how like a lot of the systems that were under the Empire, it's like, okay, well, the Empire no longer exists anymore. Like, who's left to take their place? But they fell into the hands of like local warlords and mercenaries, and so all very, very interesting, exciting stuff. I like how Ahsoka is kind of bringing together all the live action Star Wars shows we've already gotten teasers for Ahsoka. Not only there's the one episode in season 2 of The Mandalorian. We got the one episode with Ahsoka, and in Book of Boba Fett there was like that one episode that just focused on Mando, so kind of a teaser for Mandalorian season 3, and also this is the one episode where we saw Luke and Ahsoka, so another teaser for Ahsoka in Book of Boba Fett. So I like how they're like bringing everything together. Acolyte, Skeleton Crew, sounds exciting. Jude Law, he was Jan Rog in Captain Marvel, and I mean Carrie Ann Moss, The Matrix, guys. Whew, man. All right. Upcoming new movies announced. Over the course of the weekend, 3 new Star Wars films were revealed. The first is a yet-to-be-named Star Wars movie directed by James Mangold that will be based thousands of years back in time and centers on the first Jedi. Second, all the Star Wars Disney Plus shows that have been made to date will be connected to one another through a feature film that Dave Filoni is directing. But it also has not yet been given a name. Finally, and probably the most thrilling news, Daisy Ridley, who played Ren in the sequel trilogy, will be appearing in a new film following the rise of Skywalker that will focus on the Jedi Order's rehabilitation. All right, so a lot in this section of the document. So first bit of news, yet to be named Star Wars movie directed by James Mangold that's going to focus on the first Jedi. Honestly, I can see why George Lucas decided to make the movies in the order that he did. He gave us the original trilogy, episodes 4, 5, and 6, and then leaving it open-ended for, going back and doing episodes 1, 2, and 3, and then eventually we got 7, 8, and 9. Doing a whole prequel movie about the very first Jedi, like that's actually a question that I've had. I mean, again, guys, let me know. Like, is that a question you guys have had, like, about like how did people discover like the Force and like the Kyber crystals? Like, there's a ton of lore. There's a ton of like lore. Like, maybe they dive into like the Star Wars legends. They'll dive into like legends and dive even into the official Star Wars canon about like the stories of like the very first Jedi, the Old Republic. For the gamers listening, like if any of you have played Knights of the Old Republic, not the biggest gamer myself, but yeah, I think there is a like certified fresh Rotten Tomatoes movie in there somewhere. I mean, I think that the current state of like the Star Wars movies, it was not a mixed bag, but I think that the last 10 years of live action Star Wars movies, which really is only like 8 years because we got 2015 Force Awakens. I liked The Force Awakens. I liked it. I saw it in theaters. I was 14. I was 14, almost 15 when it came out. Saw it at I think it was at Cinemark in North Haven, Connecticut, and it was my very first time in reclining chairs. It was awesome. Right after Christmas, and yeah, it was a fun movie. Nice way to bring everybody back and introduce a new villain. 2016 we got Rogue One, nice little prequel film that's pretty much Star Wars Episode 3.9. It's like the end of Rogue One is the beginning of A New Hope, and 2017. I think The Last Jedi has divided the Star Wars fandom. There are those who think that it's the worst Star Wars movie ever, and then there's those who think that maybe it's not that bad. I kind of fall into the latter. I think that Star Wars: The Last Jedi, say what you will about the way that the theme of failure is applied in the movie, but I've taken from it like a lot of the inspirational sayings and a lot of the themes from that movie specifically. It's kind of like like how and not to put you on the spot, Michael, from Star Wars. I know I keep coming back to you. It's kind of like how like Michael was telling us, was telling me and all the other all of our podcasting buddies how he thought that like Eternals was like the best movie of Phase 4, and how like it's a Marvel movie for people who don't really like Marvel movies. It's a different kind of movie. It's like people experience real like things and stuff like that. So I'm kind of the same way with The Last Jedi. It's like, okay, yeah, the theme of failure and like failure is the greatest teacher in life. And, that's something I've applied in the real world. I think, the movies like The Last Jedi are kind of the reason I have a podcast, the reason I created this platform is, like you escape your reality for like 2 hours and then you live in someone else's for 2 hours. Then you come back into the real world. It's like, what have you taken back into the real world? What are you supposed to learn? How are you impacted by this movie? I think that is the true purpose of cinema. That is true art. I said it. You heard it here first. So Last Jedi, it's not the best Star Wars movie, but it's definitely not the worst. It's a far cry from the worst. Rise of Skywalker, I saw that movie right before COVID, and I haven't seen it since. That movie, when Huck said that he was the informant, I'm just like, go off, J.J. Abrams, do you? Like, I honestly just didn't care. I'm figuring, hey, it's the last in the trilogy. All bets are off. We got Billy D. Williams back. Hooray! Um, that's all I remember from the Rise of Skywalker, to be honest. And I guess this new movie with Daisy Ridley would be a follow up to the Rise of Skywalker, but it would take place like 15 years in the future. Yeah, I heard it was going to be like 15 years in the future. So maybe reestablishing the Jedi Order, and now that she has learned from the mistakes of the two previous like Jedi temples, like the old Jedi temple from like the Galactic Republic, their Jedi Order, and the fall of the Jedi Order and the fall of the Republic with Order 66 in 19 BBY, and then after the Galactic Civil War, Luke tried to bring back the Jedi Order and failed, and so hoping that she learns from the mistakes of those who came before her, and but episodes 8 and 9 were okay, and seeing Daisy Ridley again gonna be pretty exciting. Yeah, it's gonna be exciting. I'm hoping that we see more of Finn. I feel like Finn was an underused character in episode 7. I think that The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, he did more. He did more like on his own. Like, he wasn't just kind of there, just waiting to be like pushed or to be motivated by other characters, just running behind everyone else. Like The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, he really stepped into his own skin and really kind of did his thing. Shout out to John Boyega, very talented actor, very, very talented. Going all the way back to Attack the Block, John Boyega, very, very talented man. And let's see. Okay, so that was all right. Yeah. So I guess back to the whole like doing a movie about the very first Jedi. That would actually be a really interesting movie, because I was watching a video like a number of years ago. I think back in 2016. There's a YouTube channel that I used to be subscribed to called Star Wars HQ, and they did a video about the very first Jedi, and how initially there was no like Jedi and Sith. There was just the Force. There was just the Force, and there was balance, but then there was a shift in the Force. There was the Jedi, the Sith. There was the light and the dark, and then like there was the balance was broken, and the prophecy of the chosen one who would bring balance to the Force. And so I also heard another theory that Grogu from The Mandalorian, that he was also the chosen one, because pretty sure timeline wise, he was born the same year that Anakin Skywalker was born. So I guess the theory goes that both Anakin Skywalker and Grogu were both conceived by the midi-chlorians. They're two separate attempts at bringing balance to the Force. So maybe that's something we'll see going forward in The Mandalorian, which I'm probably not going to have the time to cover today, just because I try to keep these episodes at an hour, these live streams at an hour. Last bit of information in that paragraph was that Dave Filoni will be all the Star Wars Disney Plus shows that have been made will all be connected to one another through a feature film that Dave Filoni will be directing. They're finally letting Dave Filoni direct. I know Dave Filoni, he has been like the head honcho at Star Wars Animation, going all the way back to Star Wars: The Clone Wars, which again is celebrating 15 years since the start of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. And he's done Clone Wars, he's done Rebels. I think he worked on Star Wars Resistance. He has worked on The Mandalorian. He's worked in live action. He even made a cameo during one of the episodes in season 1 of The Mandalorian. So he has definitely earned his stripes. He's definitely cut his teeth at Lucasfilm. And they're finally letting him direct his own live action movie. So excited for this. So excited to see all of our friends from the animated Star Wars universe in live action. Okay, man, this is actually gonna be huge. It's gonna be huge, guys. And yeah, that's all. That is all the announcements from Star Wars Celebration. Guys, let me know what you guys like. Your honest thoughts on like the state of Star Wars currently. Um, what are your thoughts on the Disney Plus series, both live action and animated? What are your thoughts on the live action, the sequel trilogy? Like, where does The Last Jedi stand for you in your ranking? Where does are you excited for the future of are you excited for the future of Star Wars? With upcoming all these upcoming all these upcoming shows and movies. Let me know. Are you guys excited for all this? All this stuff sounds really really exciting. Sounds really really fun, and I can't wait to cover all of it. It's like I say. It's like I said it before. I've said it before, and I'll say it a million other times. Cobb's Corner. We are here to stay. We aren't going anywhere. We will review the good, the bad, the ugly in terms of like we talk about TV, we talk about film, we talk about pop culture. All right, this is the spot. This is your home for the latest in TV, film, pop culture, even outside of Marvel, Star Wars, and DC, which I have not talked about, not for today's episode. So yeah, that's what's happening with Marvel and with Star Wars. Still to come with DC, we've got the Flash. I'm currently doing like a DCEU rewatch, and I think I made it up to like Justice League at this point. So I got a little ways to go. Still to come later this year with DC, as always, the Flash, Blue Beetle. I cannot speak anymore. And before I talk about Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, I definitely first just wanted to kind of say something about The Flash and how they're bringing back Michael Keaton as Batman. And now maybe this is a generational thing. Maybe there's a generation gap. I'm definitely not really looking forward to seeing Ezra Miller on the big screen as the Flash. I think the reason why people are going to go see this movie is from Michael Keaton as Batman. I think Michael Keaton did a great job back then. Way back when in 1989, he did an amazing job with the Prince soundtrack and all that. He did an amazing job both as Bruce Wayne and as Batman. And Ben Affleck, I think Ben Affleck, he's a great actor. I think he was a better Bruce Wayne than he was Batman. I feel like I didn't really get as much from his portrayal of Batman, and I mean that the Bat logo was just why. It wasn't him as an actor. It was the writing and the directing that I feel like kind of ruined his go of it as Batman. That being said, I really, really, really think that if you really want to like pay homage to the franchise, to DC, and to the DCU as a whole, you gotta bring back Christian Bale. I think. Yeah, I think they really should have like tried to bring back Christian Bale as Batman. He's not that old, I think he's like maybe like in his 40s or 50s, and so he's about middle aged. And I just think that his portrayal of Batman is just so iconic, and I'll I'm just gonna come out and say it. Batman Begins is the reason we have an MCU or even a DCU. All right. I mean, Michael Keaton, he did his thing as Batman back in the 90s. Granted, I wasn't alive, so I don't have that nostalgic connection to Batman the same way that I have that nostalgia for Christian Bale. I understand that. Yeah, Batman Returns. But then, it got kind of shaky around Batman Forever. Joel Schumacher, you got Batman Forever, and then don't even get me started on Batman and Robin. So going into the 21st century, the character of Batman was in kind of a weird-ish spot. It was kind of, he's kind of in a difficult spot, story-wise, on the big screen anyway. Leaving us off with Batman and Robin. So Christopher Nolan in 2005 with Batman Begins, with Christian Bale, who was just coming off of The Machinist. So Christian Bale getting in shape in like less than a year for Batman Begins, which I own on DVD. And the way that they humanized Batman, the way that they kind of brought his character to life, which is just so phenomenal, just so timeless. I could watch that movie on repeat, like Batman Begins. And then The Dark Knight. I mean, The Dark Knight is my all-time favorite movie. Guys, I'm pretty sure I've said it before. You will hear me say it a million times. Dark Knight, I swear by this movie. All right, it is amazing. No matter when you watch it, like it stood the test of time. R.I.P. to Heath Ledger. And yeah, I mean, it's just an all-around great movie. And it came out the same year that Iron Man came out, but I really think that grounding Bruce Wayne in reality as a individual, as kind of a tragic, violent person with like a violent past, and the way that they set up his character, and really, like I said, they grounded him in reality and made him relatable. Like he's a flawed human being. He's a billionaire, but he lost his parents at a young age, and sort of the psychology of Batman and him having a secret identity. The way that Christopher Nolan, who is such a phenomenal actor, he is worthy of all of his awards, all of his recognitions. Can't wait to see Oppenheimer in IMAX this summer. The way that he brought this character to life is just so timeless and just so iconic that I don't see why they aren't bringing him, like the way that Christian Bale's Batman redefined the superhero genre and made it into the like, I know in the movie Black Adam they said like, oh, superhero industrial complex. I mean, yeah, pretty much superhero industrial complex. I mean, like the MCU and the DCU probably it could all not exist, guys. I mean, I feel like Christian Bale's Batman is the reason why we have an MCU. It's the reason why, superhero movies, like it's cool now. There was a time when it wasn't cool. You go back, 25 years, 1998 when the first Blade movie came out 25 years ago, like superhero movies weren't really cool back then. They weren't it. Nobody was trying to dress up in a onesie to play some dude who fights crime at night dressed like a bat. Okay, like so I definitely hopefully we will see Christian Bale's Batman at some point in the future, but I really feel like James Gunn, if you're going to redefine this superhero universe, the DCU, you really have to pay homage to those that came before you, and pay homage to the right people, pay homage to the right heroes who, like Christian Bale's Batman, who again is the reason we even have a DCU. It's the reason we even have an MCU, for that matter. There probably wouldn't be an Iron Man if not for Batman Begins. And I'm proud to say that I have that movie on DVD. physically. I physically own that movie. So, well, yeah, that's my hot take on DC, and we're approaching an hour with the last 10 minutes. I'll tell you guys a little bit about this movie. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. I saw this movie in theaters yesterday at an early screening, and the movie officially hits theaters on April 28th, 2023. This is I'm trying to think, what is the official rating? Okay, so yeah, the movie is rated PG-13. This this movie is based off of a Judy Blume novel, and it's funny. Like as I was like looking up the book and like looking up like all the other novels that Judy Blume had written, I don't think I've read a single one of her books, but I've heard her name like so many different times, and I know that when I saw the movie in theaters yesterday, the movie started with like before the movie started, we actually got a live reading of the book an excerpt of the book. I guess it was a recording of Judy Blume reading a portion of the book at like some sort of like speaking engagement, and couldn't really get the right terminology. Some sort of seminar, and seminar, and so started off. She read like a page or two out of the book, and she said how like, oh yeah, I thought that 60 was old back then. so it's a really fun little coming of age story. I'm definitely not going into spoilers because it's technically not in theaters yet. So IMDb, again, thank you for running my podcast for me. Shout out to IMDb. When her family moves from the city to the suburbs, 11-year-old Margaret navigates new friends, feelings. At the beginning, I have to stop yawning on the podcast. 11-year-old Margaret navigates new friends, feelings, and the beginning of adolescence. All right. I have not read the book. I am not familiar with the source material, but the movie, from what I saw, is definitely the kind of movie that anybody who, I guess, parents listening, like if you've got a teenage daughter or a tween age daughter, if you have a daughter who's like 11, 12 years old, or early teenage years, 13, 14, definitely take them to see it. I mean, again, the movie is rated PG-13, and so definitely, parents, go take your teenage daughters to go see this movie. It's a nice coming of age story, and I've always kind of had a soft spot for movies like that. Even like how Spider-Man: Homecoming is a coming of age story, but I feel like with my generation, and maybe it's because this podcast has been so heavily focused on superhero movies. I feel like with my generation, like we don't have a whole lot of the like John Watts era, or not John Watts, John Hughes, I think. Yeah, John Hughes. A lot of the John Hughes era movies from the 80s, all those coming of age stories like The Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, 16 Candles, Heathers. We don't have say anything. We don't have those kinds of movies today. I feel like all we've really got is the big budget live action stories. Like we don't have any like relatable stories like that, and that's why I love movies like Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. The movie also sort of, I guess you could say, satirizes what it's like growing up in a religious household. I was raised Christian. I still to this day am a Christian, and I mean, I guess in Margaret's case, growing up with a Christian mother and a Jewish father, and then sort of letting her choose her own religion when she's older, but then having a grandmother who wanted her to convert to Judaism, and then having grandparents who wanted her to be Christian. And so I guess interfaith marriage, interfaith families, and that sort of thing. It's a nice little sort of satire-ish, I guess, of that. But definitely, but I guess I highly recommend, like, to the parents listening to this to this podcast. If you have a teenage daughter, have her read the book. I think you should definitely read the book first. Don't do what I did. Don't do what I did and just go see the movie. Definitely read the book first and then go and see the movie. I enjoyed it. I greatly enjoyed the movie. I had a lot of fun watching it, and don't see any ratings. And I'm not going to look at the ratings because I don't trust early ratings before the movie has actually been in theaters. And yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like going back and thinking. Going back and like thinking about like when I was in middle school and when I learned about the reproductive system, and like we were required to learn, like they didn't separate boys and girls, like we learned like the male and female reproductive system, like we just like everybody learned the same information. I mean, it's like, and for us it wasn't even like health class, like it was like we did a unit on the reproductive system in science class, and then we had students from Yale come in like twice a week, every week for like maybe like 2 or 3 weeks to talk to us about health. And it wasn't just about like the reproductive system. It was about like the dangers of alcohol and tobacco and, nicotine and all that stuff. So, but, the fact that this movie is set in like the 1970s, like it really gives us a window, my generation gives us a window into what life was like before the internet. I've heard nothing but horror stories from my parents about back in their day or when I was coming up. So I wonder, I mean, the movie takes place in 1970. Like, what was it like growing up in 1970, being a teenager in 1970? Granted, my parents aren't that old. But what was it like, being 12 years old in 1970? What did you do for fun? There's no internet. There's no cell phones. It's like, what was the world like before all of this, before the internet, before podcasts? Like, so yeah, highly recommend you guys check it out. Had a lot of fun watching it. A lot of really fun gags, a lot of really fun moments, but a lot of teachable moments, a lot of like really applicable moments in the movie that I'm sure that teenage girls and even younger, tweenage girls, 10, 11, 12-year-old girls should all go see this movie. It's a really, really amazing story about standing up for what is right and coming of age and like growing pains. And no matter what you believe in, just remember, in the words of Kendrick Lamar, we gon' be all right. And that is today's episode. If you like today's episode, then be sure to give us a like on Twitch and on YouTube. Subscribe to Cobbs Corner on YouTube and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Give us a 5-star review wherever you are listening from. Be sure to turn on your post notifications because I drop a new episode every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you definitely don't want to miss out. I'll talk to all of you in the next episode. Peace.